A fifth teen has been arrested in connection with the Brooklyn Day mass shooting. What we're learning about the charges he's facing. The Baltimore City Council examining the events surrounding the Brooklyn Day shooting, one mother's emotional testimony and why she says the shooting should have never happened. Lawmakers gathering to address concerns over controversial juvenile justice laws. We have a live update from Annapolis.
Live from WBFF in Baltimore, this is Fox 45 News at 6.
I hated every part of that video. It shows my daughter laying on the stairs with a white sheet over her and me knowing that was her because she would have called me a long time ago. There were calls, endless calls for help, and no one showed up.
That emotional testimony from the mother of Aaliyah Gonzalez, one of the two people killed during the Brooklyn Day mass shooting, ends today's City Council hearing early. Good evening, everybody. I'm Mary Bubala. That hearing comes as a 15-year-old boy is arrested in connection with the mass shooting. That's just one big hearing happening today. Lawmakers in Annapolis holding another one, demanding answers for a recent spike in juvenile crime. Now, we have team coverage. Mackenzie Frost in Annapolis today. She'll join us live with the latest on the hearing just a minute, but we begin with Rebecca Pryor and today's emotional City Council hearing.
Tonight, tough questioning coming from City Council as they attempt to learn more about what went wrong leading up to this mass shooting and what policies need to be changed now after the fact. But much like the first oversight hearing, it appears more questions than answers remain. One of the main criticisms from council members, it's still unclear exactly who within BPD knew what and when. Also, why more preventative action wasn't taken once officers were alerted to the massive gathering. The city's own after-action report finding officers were indifferent to the warning signs, including one 911 caller stating hundreds of people were there armed with guns and knives. Additionally, BPD revealing today the department's social media monitoring team flagged a post detailing the Brooklyn Day event 4 days prior to the shooting. Councilwoman Odette Ramos pressing to learn more about why that post went ignored.
You're very specific in the rest of the report except for right here. No. So I want to get a lot more specifics about what happened between the time that the analyst saw it, the time that somebody was asked to follow up, and then nada happened.
Part of that is probably part of the Public Integrity Bureau.
So has there been other instances like this in Southern District where somebody is told to do something and they don't do it?
I'm not sure how I can answer that, Councilmember.
I mean, this is crazy.
BPD claiming that information still a part of an ongoing investigation within the department's Public Integrity Bureau. BPD also saying that's why they're unable to reveal how many officers have been disciplined following what they're calling a failed response. BPD only willing to say one major has been reassigned, although Acting Commissioner Chief Worley admits command staff knew about the gathering and chose to do nothing. That lack of action bringing a mother who lost her 18-year-old daughter in this tragedy to tears.
Knowing that there were calls, endless calls for help, and no one showed up. Knowing that Foxtrot, I now know the name, a helicopter who's hundreds of feet in the air, will tell you as they look down from hundreds of feet in the air that everything looks normal. What's your normal? I challenge you, what is your normal?
Now, after 3 hours of emotional testimony and intense questioning from council members, they did decide to end this meeting early. The rest of it will be rescheduled for a later date. However, that date has yet to be set. Reporting from City Hall, Rebecca Pryor, Fox 45 News.
And as Rebecca mentioned, Aaliyah Gonzalez's mother spoke to the council about the pain that she has felt since Brooklyn Day. We could feel it today, and the frustration she has with the response.
I know you said we're guests of honor. This is no honor. I appreciate the sentiment, but there's a million things I'd rather do than be here and talk about this. On a scene, the police told me we just found out about it today. Immediately, I said, Alex, they're lying. Someone told us that we just found out about the Brooklyn Day block party today.
Well, the mayor's office of neighborhood safety and engagement is facing questions about its response to the shooting. Monzi confirms Safe Streets employees mediated 5 incidents believed to involve guns the night of the shooting, but stopped short of addressing where those incidents took place or how they were related to the shooting. Safe Streets workers were also aware of plans for Brooklyn Day nearly a month in advance, but did not notify police the event was happening.
We want to make sure that we're able, moving forward, to have very strong intelligence between Safe Streets and the Mayor's Office of Neighborhood Safety and Engagement so that we have the proper situational awareness.
The Housing Authority of Baltimore has also faced criticism for allowing the unauthorized party to happen in the first place. Agency leaders saying they weren't aware Brooklyn Day was taking place despite the crowds at Brooklyn homes that day. The agency now working to provide overnight security and educating residents about emergency protocols like using a hotline to report potentially dangerous events. Now, today's hearing comes as police make a 5th arrest in the Brooklyn Day mass shooting. Fox 45 News learning a 15-year-old was taken into custody today. Kai is here with the latest surrounding the arrest. Kai.
Mary, we know that teen was arrested at a Baltimore home this morning, and while detectives say he fired his weapon at several people during that mass shooting, he's not charged with injuring anyone at this time. The teen is charged with 44 different offenses, including attempted first-degree murder. He is the 5th person now charged with firing weapons at the July block party, which killed 2 people and injured 28 others who were shot. The police commissioner told residents last week that there were as many as 10 shooters who fired their weapons during the block party, and they are using ballistics evidence to find them. While the commissioner maintains that detectives don't have any witnesses, one resident tells Fox 45 she believes she knows why.
I believe there are plenty of eyewitnesses. I believe there are plenty of people who will want to talk up if they felt safe in doing so. But like I said, the people that they can talk up on or mention, these people could hurt them or hurt their family. They know we're in the community that these people be in. So I feel like it's no reassurance for us. So why put yourself out there?
Fox 45's Jeff Abel is following this story, and he'll bring us a full report tonight on Fox 45 News at 10. Mary?
Kai, thank you. Now to the other major hearing we're following surrounding the juvenile justice laws on the books in Maryland. Fox 45's Mackenzie Frost is live in Annapolis with what we are hearing today. Mackenzie?
Yeah, Mary, the hearing just wrapped up, hours long, and a marathon of questions for the various participants who briefed lawmakers today. We heard from the Department of Juvenile Services, the Public Defender's Office, police and sheriff's associations, and ending with the state's attorneys association. And really, we are seeing a clear divide among lawmakers. Some are standing with and supporting the current juvenile justice laws on the books, while others are looking for ways to ensure there's more accountability for these young offenders when they commit their crimes. Now, during the presentation from the Department of Juvenile Services Secretary Vincent Schiraldi, he really went point by point detailing that report that was released yesterday, talking about how the agency believes crime is trending downward when it comes to various crimes, but not in Baltimore City and certainly not when it comes to kids using guns in their crimes. And that's really where we saw some prosecutors push back on the data and really question the probation and home monitoring services and the programs that are in place for these kids on home monitoring across the state.
That's not what we've seen here in Montgomery County. If you actually compare the numbers between 21 and 22, we have nearly double the number of arrests in 22 than we had in 21. The arbitrary setting up of limitations on how long someone can be placed on probation doesn't really focus on rehabilitating the individual. There is no consequence, as the law now exists, if you blow off probation.
And while Governor Wes Moore is calling for change when it comes to some of these juvenile laws, he refuses to explain specifically what changes he wants to see, even when we questioned him about it directly earlier this afternoon. We also had the opportunity to catch up with House Speaker Adrienne Jones and question her about what she's going to do about this juvenile crime crisis when lawmakers return in January. Do you believe that kids using guns in crimes is a problem that the House will address in January?
The Judiciary Committee will deal with it.
As Speaker, though, do you think that it's something that will be a priority?
The Judiciary Committee and all our committees, all their priorities, we hear. So, yeah, obviously.
Is it a priority for you? As a lawmaker here in Baltimore County, we saw kids using guns in Lansdowne. We've had issues with DJS.
Yes, obviously, yes. But I gotta go.
When will we see legislation to address that?
Well, we don't do session until January. So
Should that change?
Excuse me?
Should that change?
Should what change?
Should there be a special session to address the juvenile crime crisis right now?
This is something I will be discussing with my chairs. I don't want to be in the media and saying, oh, speaker didn't talk to us. We're going to be having meetings, so when that happens, you'll know, okay? And not being like that, but that's how I operate. I don't like to surprise people.
Well, we've asked your office several times and we've never got a response.
Well, my office is not me, okay? All right, have a good day.
Your office isn't you? Don't you oversee what statements come from your office?
No, you were saying in terms of what responses, what you can or cannot do. That's my decision. So my office is not going to say something unless, we all are talking to. Like I said, I don't like surprises or something being in that's not accurate. So, okay? All right.
Despite this 5-hour hearing today, the conversation is still not over. The chair of this committee, Delegate Luke Clippinger, is calling another hearing to continue this discussion in November. We're live in the State House. Mackenzie Frost, Fox 45 News.
Mackenzie, thank you. This brings us to our question of the day. Do you think lawmakers will do what's necessary to get juvenile crime under control? So far, 98% of those who voted say no. You can vote right now at foxbaltimore.com/vote. Well, 2 weeks after escaping from a Pennsylvania prison, a convicted killer back behind bars tonight. What officials are revealing about the timeline of his capture.
Politicians often promise to knock D.C. down a size or two by getting rid of entire agencies. So how likely is it? I'm Scott Thuman in Washington with a closer look coming up.
And after flooding rains for the city last night, a much nicer afternoon, and tonight looking a lot better. Just a slim chance of a shower after midnight. I'm going to let you know how much better the forecast even looks than this. We're also tracking the tropics and my Weather Authority forecast.
After 14 days on the run, the convicted killer who escaped from a Pennsylvania jail is back behind bars. Police now revealing the timeline behind Danilo Cavalcante's capture. Officials say a home alarm that went off after midnight Tuesday first alerted searchers on his general location. Police did search that area, but they didn't find him. At around 1 a.m., a plane with thermal imaging cameras picked up a heat signal. Last night's storms forced that plane to leave the area, but officials stayed to secure a perimeter where the heat signal had been. Shortly after 8 a.m., police found Cavalcante in a wooded area about a half-mile away from where that alarm went off.
They were able to move in very quietly. They had the element of surprise. Cavalcante did not realize he was surrounded until that had occurred. That did not stop him from trying to escape. He began to crawl through thick underbrush, taking his rifle with him as he went.
Police say they released a canine dog to stop Cavalcante from escaping them. He had been on the run since August 31st. He was serving a life sentence. He was about to start serving a life sentence for the murder of his ex-girlfriend. He is also wanted in a 2017 homicide case in his native Brazil.
Fox Triplecast this evening showing a few extra clouds on the Mile 1 Taos cam, also the Toyota Eastern Arbor Sky Cam, and the latest weather maker is now pulling through on the HD radar. This is a cold front, actually gave us, 2 to 5 inches of rain in about an hour or two here in Baltimore last night. Extensive flash flooding. That now moving up into New England, where they're going to have problems from the tropics as well. One little lone round of showers south and west toward Charlottesville, Dale City, and Virginia. That moving north and east potentially could scrape us into, I'd say, right around and shortly after the midnight hours. And then this cold front moves east and the drier air firmly moves in. Taking a beautiful look, much better look than what we saw yesterday in the Mile 1 Taos cam. A little bit of a hazy shot in the distance of the skyline of Baltimore. 83 right now with the mostly to partly sunny skies. Winds out of the north-northwest at 5. That's bringing in drier air. Actually, also on the backside of this, Hurricane Lee, now a Category 2, moving off to the west of Bermuda. And eventually looks like it makes a landfall, direct hit either over extreme southeastern Canada or eastern Maine. Either way, looks like they're going to see lots of rain and surge, potentially devastating surge, as well as some high winds up that way. Around here, the impact's going to be pretty indirect. It's going to be a few hundred miles off our coastline. But do notice 10 to 20-foot waves coming up against the Maryland and Delaware beaches all the way through the end of the week and the early weekend before that begins to drop off, especially as we head into Sunday. That's when it'll be safer to get in the water if you intend on doing that. Outside of that, there's Margot. That also is way out in the open Atlantic. That looks like that's not going to have any impact on land. And then there's a high chance of tropical development. Could become our next tropical depression as it moves over the central Atlantic. That's going to be something to watch through the weekend into next week. Now, the Futurecast overnight into early tomorrow morning says a few showers here and there, especially right around and shortly after midnight. That then pulls east, and I think tomorrow's a dry and gorgeous day. 61, mostly cloudy, less humid tonight. Could see a sprinkle or spritz, especially after midnight. Mostly sunny tomorrow. 80, bright and breezy. I'm going to let you know how long it lasts coming up on my exclusive 10-day forecast.
Well, it is a common complaint, especially from political candidates. The federal government is simply too big. The latest to propose massive cuts is Republican presidential contender Vivek Ramaswamy, who has suggested eliminating hundreds of thousands of jobs, including getting rid of the FBI, the Department of Education, and some other agencies. Sinclair's chief political correspondent Scott Thuman explains how these big ideas can get even bigger challenges.
There's no arguing the federal government is a behemoth, the country's largest employer with about 2 million civilian personnel. But some presidential candidates want to dramatically change that.
Mass layoffs are absolutely what I am bringing to the D.C. bureaucracy.
Among them, Vivek Ramaswamy, who recently told us while on the campaign trail his designs for dismantling the IRS, Department of Education, and in this case, the FBI.
35,000 or so employees. 20,000 of them are in back office functions. They're going to have to go home and find honest work in the private sector. But 15,000 of them are agents on the front lines. We'll move some of them to the U.S. Marshals, which has been more effective in pursuing child sex trafficking rings, or to the DEA on the front lines of taking on the fentanyl epidemic.
Axios reporting Ramaswamy wants to cut 1 million civilian jobs. He's not the only one ready to start slashing.
I'll also shut down the Federal Department of Education.
Though it's often easier said than done, since Congress, in many ways, has a larger say in how government functions. President Trump vowed to cut the federal footprint, but instead grew it almost 1% each year. For President Obama, it went up about 1/3%.
About 70% of that federal workforce is all about national security. I don't know how you get rid of 1 million federal employees and don't do unbelievably serious damage to our safety as a nation. And it's also the case that when you cut federal employees, you're also going to be just increasing the number of private contractors, and that's likely to increase costs and get you less good service.
And Max Stier says as critical events occur, government can grow due to emergencies, like the formation of the Transportation Security Administration after 9/11. In other words, campaign promises can be very hard to keep. And to that point, Stier adding that morale is another factor if you're telling literally hundreds of thousands of people that their jobs may be irrelevant or could easily be replaced, dismissed, eliminated. What does that do for their mindset as they continue to try and function every day? Mary?
Clearly, he wouldn't get their vote for sure. Scott, politically, how does this sit with people?
Well, for Republicans, it's been a talking point for a while, promoting a smaller government, shrinking a bloated government here in Washington, D.C. and across the country. And so it sits well with them. But there's no arguing across the aisle. Both parties can agree that there is a lot of waste, fraud, abuse, lack of efficiency, and that's something that should be better confined. And there is agreement on that, but how to get to that point, that's where the arguing begins.
Yeah, it feels like we never see it happen. All right, Scott Thuman live in D.C. for us tonight. Thank you. A 16-year-old girl killed outside of a Prince George's County high school. Why her father says she was shot trying to protect somebody else. A 16-year-old Prince George's County student is dead following a shooting outside of Juvenile High School Monday. Brad Bell with our Sinclair sister station has the story.
Her name was Jada Medrano Moore. That's her, number 24 on the website Huddle, playing basketball for Duval High 2 years ago. Her father, though no longer in the area, says Moore loved basketball and loved Duval.
Very intelligent young lady. She was inspired to go to the WNBA. She was just like a team player.
The 16-year-old killed after school yesterday, just a block from Duval. According to multiple sources, she was trying to protect her younger brother from a group of masked teens who appeared to be waiting for him. The sources say she was trying to break up a fight when one of the teens first hit her with a gun, then fired one shot.
It looks like she made a jump in front of a bullet just to try to save her brother.
At the high school today, a heavy police presence both on and around campus. This student telling us it's been a tough day.
You could tell that people were pretty shook by what happened. You can tell by their faces, especially since they had, the teachers had to make an announcement about what happened. Even my teacher, in our first period, looked like he was about to start crying.
As for the investigation, police say they've made no arrests. And even though the shooting was witnessed by a group of teens, they're still looking to identify the shooter.
We are determined to find a suspect who callously, in broad daylight, killed one of our teenagers in our community.
Good looking forecast coming up. Orioles playing tonight at 6:35. Weather looking great in the 70s for them. Bright and breezy tomorrow, 80, 77 on Friday. Stays nice Saturday. Could see a stray shower, more the exception than the rule later Sunday and into Monday. And it stays gorgeous all the way through next week.
Jonathan, thanks. Well, today is the last day to help name the Maryland Zoo's northern ground hornbill chick. The zoo has narrowed it down to 3 suggested names. The names will be revealed tomorrow. We will, of course, keep you updated. We're going with Tannen. That's one of the names. That's all for Fox 45 News at 6. Family Feud's next. We'll see you back here for the news tonight at 10. Have a great night, and thanks for watching.